Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, a show celebrating and questioning one of the most beloved entertainment companies in the world through honest, passionate, and clear-eyed Disney discussions. I'm Jeff DePauli, your entertainment-obsessed host with rose-colored glasses removed. Have you ever sat and enjoyed the tight melodies of the Dapper Dans in the Disney parks? Perhaps you've even had a dream of becoming a Dapper Dan yourself. Well, today on the show, I'm chatting all about the Dapper Dans with a current Disneyland Dapper Dan, Jake Novak. The Dapper Dans have been a long tradition for Disneyland, beginning performances just a few years after the park opened, and Magic Kingdom has had their Dapper Dans since its very beginning. But of course, barbershop singing began way before the Dapper Dans existed. Listen as we discuss a bit about the history of barbershop quartets and the history of the Dapper Dans and the Disney parks. Plus, Jake shares personal stories about performing in the parks, what the audition process was like, and so much more. All opinions that Jake shares are his own, and he does not speak on behalf of the Walt Disney Company. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Dapper Dan, Jake Novak.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
Hello, Jake, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast. First time here, yay!
Woo!
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here, man.
Always happy to have cast members join us for the behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at the parks and such. But today we're talking about the Dapper Dans, of course, of the Disney parks, which you are a member of. But before we jump into the history of the Dapper Dans and your personal experience, I want to read this excerpt from mentalfloss.com, just giving a brief history of barbershop quartets, because that's really where it all starts with the Dapper Dans, right? And I'm sure what was your introduction actually to them? Was it a Disney thing, or for me it was the Music Man, I think.
Oh, like to barbershop in general?
Yeah.
I got a little bit of exposure to like barbershop chorus stuff when I was in high school, like doing that in choir, doing some chorus pieces. But honestly, Dapper Dans was really like the main introduction to barbershop for me. I found them and I was like, oh, can I do that? That's fun.
Honestly, I assume that's how most people know of barbershop quartets. It was either it was between the Disney parks and the Music Man for me.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I feel like most people, because it's not super common, I'm going to assume it's probably the Disney parks. So it's kind of cool that they keep that art alive on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, it's like obviously barbershop still exists today, but in terms of like giving it a big scale, there's not a lot that's able to do that, and so to get it, all over wherever you go on Main Street is pretty sweet.
Excellent. So here's what mentalfloss.com has to say about barbershop quartets. Barbershop vocals are characterized by the second tenor, the lead, carrying the melody, with the first tenor singing harmony above him. The lowest voice, the bass, provides the foundation, and the baritone fills in the middle spaces. All done a cappella, of course, which means with no instruments. Even though barbershop is considered an American invention, the idea had its roots in England. During the 1600s, muzak was not yet available, so British barbers kept a cittern, a stringed instrument similar to a lute, handy for their customers to strum while awaiting their shave and haircut. Sometimes customers got inventive and did things like fill candlesticks with coins to add a little percussion to the mix. The resulting cacophony was referred to as barber's music. Flash forward to 1830s America, the local barbershop is a common gathering place for average guys, the ones who couldn't afford to join posh social clubs and who didn't hang out in saloons, which still had something of a stigma at the time. Sometimes, to while away the hours on his feet, the barber would start crooning a tune. Eventually, patrons added their harmonies in a call-and-response type format. By 1890, both the proliferation of printed sheet music and the presence of a piano in most middle-class homes made barbershop-style singing a bona fide fad. Now, how did those oversized mustaches, striped jackets, and straw hats become synonymous with the genre? Well, that started with vaudeville. Barbershop quartets were often used in front of the curtain to entertain, while other acts were setting up behind the curtain. In order to be seen by those in the cheap seats, they donned that distinctive costume. That's a very brief history. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Wow.
But anything new you learned there?
That's great. I mean, yeah, I didn't know that it all, it all began, first of all, England. That's a twist.
In some of my research, honestly, it was African American influence as well. A lot sooner. Honestly, it's not super clear where it started, but I decided to go with the mental floss description because it seems the clearest.
Yeah, and mental floss. It just sort of sounds. There's actually there's a song that we the Dapper Dans do in which we have a joke about mental floss. So it's appropriate. It's this whole bit. It's a song called "Just in Case You Change Your Mind," and the lead singer is sort of just being puppeted around by the guys on either side of him. And at one point, a bit of invisible string is put through one ear and out the other, and sort of moved back and forth. And there, it's mental floss. So it's all really. What I'm saying is, you picked a good one, Jeff. You picked the right one for this.
Perfect. And you learned a little bit as well, it sounds like. So that's good.
Totally. No, it's a fascinating. It's always interesting to find out where this stuff develops from and how different it's become in the many years since those early beginnings. It's you'd imagine those people in those like early barbershops with whatever the little instruments and like the box whatever. They look at barbershop music today and be like, what? Like, what is that?
I was honestly happy to find out that it had some affiliation with barbershops, because there was part of me expecting that not to be the case, even though it feels like,
right.
It should be. So when did you officially become a Dapper Dan?
I started rehearsals in early 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been over 6 years now.
And I'm going to assume you saw them many times before that.
I saw them sometimes before that. I sort of have this this odd thing that is occasionally infuriating to some people, where like I've worked plenty at Disneyland, but I'm not like a person who grew up going there all the time and just like always wanting to work there, that kind of thing. It's mostly geography. I didn't live in California, so it's kind of hard to get there. But I certainly did get some exposure to them before I got the job, and namely in the preparation for the audition. When I found out the auditions were coming, I was like, that seems interesting. I want to check it out, and sort of did a deep dive on what they were and lots of videos of things like that. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. I want to do that.
Well, I don't know you super well, but we have a mutual friend and we've met before. And it does feel like your skill set is pretty perfect for the gig.
Thank you.
Did you feel that way when you read it? Where you're like, I can totally
Definitely.
do this.
100%. I was like, this feels like it might be my wheelhouse. It's good tight harmony singing, and then just a lot of like being a goof and like bad jokes and just like general dad humor funness. And yeah, I seized on that very quickly.
That's great. Now, what vocal part do you sing?
I started out singing tenor. That's how I got hired. But I still do that these days. I do mostly lead, though. I've found that's a better fit for my voice.
And that's tenor too?
That's the tenor too. Yeah, that's the one who's doing the melodies about 90% of the time.
And frankly, that's the one everybody wants, right?
I don't know. I mean, I personally, like, having grown up as an a cappella singer or harmony singer and sing parts, I really like getting to sing the stuff that makes the sound become the sound. It's like the solo is nice and it's familiar. Everyone knows the melody or something like that. But it's great to like just sort of be the one who's filling in and like giving it something different than just one guy singing a solo or something like that. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it's fun to sing the solo. So.
But also, you're making it sound like harmonizing is easy, and it's a very different skill set. I mean, I've studied voice for years, and just because somebody can sing, has a beautiful voice, they can't necessarily harmonize for crap. Like, is that something that's kind of natural for you, or is it more of a learned skill?
It's very natural for me. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things where I've just always been able to do it without much effort. I mean, I was like, the earliest memories I have of harmonizing with stuff is like I'd play like Broadway cast recordings like in the car, when I was a kid, and just like I just make up harmonies to what the melodies were, because I got bored of just singing along with what the actual melodies were. So I was like, all right, well, I can make this sound like better and add some more to it. So I would just like make up stuff to go along with it. And it really just like, yeah, it's always been kind of second nature to me. But you're right in that, like, not, there are fantastic, vocalists, soloists who have, the most gorgeous instrument, for whom part singing is really challenging. And it's like, so you can certainly learn how to do it, and improve your skills, but for some some it comes super easily, and some it's a real struggle. So I'm lucky to be on the first side of that coin.
Well, it reminds me of that phrase in, I think it's like a musical theater phrase, where they say leading men don't dance, right? You've got all these fantastic dancers on stage, but if you look at the lead roles, they tend not to have very difficult dancing, if any,
That's
involved.
Right.
There should be a phrase, leading men don't harmonize.
That's right. That's it. I mean, yeah, it's the same kind of principle. It's like there's other people, who can specialize in that, who may not be able to, as easily do like that leading man role. And so you just kind of get everybody filling in those places.
We need to start a product line of this. We need like a leading men don't swing, leading men don't understudy, leading men don't dance.
That's amazing.
There we go. Now, I know a lot of the Dapper Dans are members of the Barbershop Harmony Society. Are you a member of this?
The Dapper Dans are all honorary members of the Barbershop Harmony Society.
And what is that exactly?
Well, there is it's sort of, I can't claim to know an extraordinary amount of the detail on it, but basically the gist of it is that there is I think in honor of, what the Dapper Dans, have done for the barbershop community and sort of being part of it and spreading, the I was going to say spreading awareness of it. It sounds like it's a disease that needs to be like talked about. No, just popularizing, keeping barbershop in the conversation, things like that. There is an honorary Main Street USA chapter of the Barbershop Harmony Society, and so all Dapper Dans are inducted into that as a matter of course. But I personally am not a member of the society outside of that.
Okay. Now, the Dapper Dans, of course, officially began performing at Disneyland in 1959. So this goes way back. This was just 4 years after the park opened, and they've been at Magic Kingdom since its opening in 1971. But the Dapper Dans weren't actually the first barbershop quartet to perform at Disneyland, because in 1957, Disneyland Entertainment Director Tommy Walker arranged for a barbershop quartet to perform on Main Street to add a little more atmosphere. The bass singer of that original group, T.J. Marker, came up with the new name, the Dapper Dans, for the reimagined 1959 group, where they would do more than simply sing. They added the vaudeville wit, tap dancing, and chimes. Dapper Dan was a term in the turn of the century, referring to a well-dressed and groomed gentleman who is dapper or stylish. Now, obviously, you're a part of a long Disneyland tradition, but can you tell me a bit about that audition process and exactly kind of how you became a member? Did you have to dance? Did you have to do storytelling? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. The audition process for this is pretty well known as a tough one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. At least, I can't speak exactly to how they're auditioning these days, because I haven't done it in a bit, but I can speak to like what I've done personally. And it's it started out for when I was auditioning, there were probably 125, 150 guys that were going out for it that day. And we started off by learning one short song. And, they divided us into vocal parts all in one big room, just like plunked through what the each part was, sang it through a couple times all together. And then that was, okay, now go have your own time. And then they would call us in by voice part in groups of 10. And we would step, when it was our turn, we would step up in front of the creative team, and the pianist would play the starting note on the piano, and then we would have to sing our part a cappella. And then when we sang the last note, the pianist would play what the last note was supposed to be. And then we get to hear how close we got. So it was, it's pretty much a given that if that last pitch that you sang didn't match the pitch that the pianist played, you were probably not making it to the next round.
Whoa. Okay, so that's super fascinating for people listening who might not have understood that. So basically, when a singer is typically singing with instrumentation, you're guided by the piano, the strings, whatever's being played. But in the case of a cappella, obviously there's no instrumentation. So, the shift of tone, shift of notes is... an unskilled natural occurrence. So that's so fascinating. So they're basically they're basically saying you're wrong, or you shifted. That's interesting.
Totally. Huh. And it was a test to see how good your ear is, because that's so much of what you're relying on in a cappella and barbershop music. You have to really be able to hear where you are in by yourself and in the context of the rest of the group. So it was like we were talking about earlier about how not every good singer is a good part singer. It's basically like a way of finding that out, of like, okay, like it doesn't, how you sound is one thing, but can you actually like do this? And of course, like the audition that I was doing was for a tenor, so it's not the melody, it's the highest part, and it's just sort of this like, by itself doesn't really sound very good or like anything. And so it's even, an extra layer of challenge to make sure you're ending where you're supposed to.
Did you have to audition again when you started doing the second tenor stuff?
No, I had to, I just had to prove that I could do it in a rehearsal, but I didn't have to go through a separate audition process.
So let me ask you this. So obviously they're looking for people who are, quote unquote, pitch perfect, but let's just say, one of the four guys is having an off day. Let's say it's the lead, the second tenor part. Are the others instructed to like, hey, just follow where the lead goes? Or how does that work?
That's an interesting question. I mean, the lead is generally, and this is for barbershop, beyond just the Dapper Dans. This is not particular to us, but the lead is kind of the guy, regardless of who might be, like the music director of the group or who's in charge of those sorts of things. When you're doing a performance, the lead is the dude. Almost always, and so you do kind of have to follow him into the dark, into the great beyond, wherever he may be going.
Into the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, come on, it's a Disney podcast. So you do kind of have to just be like, all right, like let's go along, and sometimes when you've done it for long enough, you get to make judgment calls on those things. Like sometimes it's good to just go along with it because that's just the easiest fix. Other times, if something is getting particularly off in some way, it's best to hold your ground. So it's like if you're like, for example, if I'm the lead, and I can hear like some other part is sort of like drifting, or maybe we're not hearing each other exactly the right way. Like I might just yell out a little more, so that we can all like come back to home base.
Those must be some scary moments live on stage with the mics on. You're like, oh, okay.
Occasionally it gets the blood pumping a little bit. Yeah, that's for sure.
You're like, oh wait, shut off the auto drive. Gotta start driving for a second.
I don't know I'm never on autopilot, Jeff. Come on, I would never.
Of course not. Not after 6 years. So was dance and like storytelling part of the audition as well, considering that is a big part of the group?
Absolutely, yeah. Once we got through the very scary first round, it's less intimidating after that. But it was they would set us up into quartets and read through a part of a script. So everyone would have their lines in front of them, and we just sort of go through that kind of thing. We did some quartet singing as well, and then dance, learning with the some of the tap combinations that the Dans do.
It sounds like you didn't grow up as a Disney nerd going to the parks all the time. You weren't obsessed with the Dapper Dans and stuff. But like, that's right. And sincerely, how excited were you when you got the gig? Were you?
I was thrilled.
Were you recognizing like what a tradition it was?
Absolutely, absolutely. I felt super, super lucky and privileged to be able to grab that job. Yeah, I mean, especially like as someone trying to make a living as a performer, you come across an opportunity like that where you get to like do this thing and actually get paid for it. You come up as a theater performer. You you get a lot of like, here, yeah, do this show and we'll rehearse you for 12 weeks and you'll make $20 for every performance that you do, but you're an understudy, so you're only going to do 3 shows. So here's $60 for 3 months of work, and no gas stipend, and you're just like, okay, there's a time where you're hungry enough to make that work, but then that goes away because then you just get hungry. Like actual food needs to be bought. So to be able to like have that kind of thing was a huge deal. But then, I mean, absolutely in terms of just like, yeah, stepping into the tradition, and especially as I started to do the job and understand, how much the Dapper Dans, but also just Disneyland in general, mean to people and to the folks that, have spent a lot of time there and have, these really important like memories and ties to there. There's a big responsibility to make good experiences, and continue, the legacy of the company and the parks. It's an awesome kind of mantle to get to hold up. But I think it was I felt very and still do feel very lucky to have been entrusted with that kind of responsibility.
The most important question I'll ask you today. You ready for it?
Oh gosh. Well, let me adjust my position here. Okay.
All right.
Hit me.
Do you know any Dapper Dans named Dan? We do not currently have any Dapper Dans named Dan. I know there have been some in the past, but we do not at the moment have any Dapper Dans whose actual name is Dan. How many of you are there at Disneyland? Like a dozen, or?
Yeah, we have about 16, I believe, right now. Yeah.
So, and I'm sure some of those folks know multiple parts, perhaps?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, many folks do.
That's going to be a little bit of a scheduling nightmare. I mean, that's a pretty good number for a performer, a performance group of 4 people, but still, each one has such a specific skill.
It can be challenging. It works out most of the time, I will say.
Cool. Now, what is your musical training exactly? I assume it started in school or something?
Yeah. I mean, I came up as like a musical theater and choir person, through schooling. So that's a lot of where my like actual music training came. I also was an instrumentalist. I took piano lessons as a kid. I played trombone, and so I was around music a lot, and at a certain point, most of that was vocal music, and then I've just sort of continued on as a singer in my post school career. Sometimes in theater and sometimes in non-theater applications, but lots and lots of singing. So yeah. There's been a good portion of it, was school training, but then a lot of it's on the job as well.
Do you have a vocal coach like regularly still?
No, the last time I had a vocal coach was in college.
Okay.
And he was great, but he was in Boston. So.
Oh, where did you go to school?
I went to Emerson College.
Oh, did I know that about you? I went to Emerson.
Wait, really?
Yeah. What year did you graduate?
14.
Oh gosh, you're so much younger than me. I graduated in 2004.
Oh my gosh, wow.
That's so funny. Did you grow up near there?
No, I'm a Chicago guy originally.
Well, that's really cool though. That I love Boston.
Me too.
Still have family there, so I get to visit quite a bit. But I didn't realize you were an Emerson boy. What?
Yeah, and likewise. How fun is that?
There's so many of us out here in LA, frankly. I mean, we all just saw the whole Stranger Things thing where everybody freaked out because the girl had an Emerson College sweatshirt on.
It's incredible.
For folks listening who may not know, there are so many Emerson folks in LA that they call us the Emerson Mafia, and that is like a legitimate term in Facebook group. So anyway, enough about me. I'm curious, and I don't expect you to know an exact number, but how many songs are in the repertoire for the Dapper Dans?
Oh gosh. In the full repertoire, I would say it's probably around 50 or so.
Okay. So that's a lot of learning.
It is. It is. Yeah, the initial rehearsals, your first year as you're going through like the normal repertoire and then the rep for the holidays of Halloween and the December holidays. That's a lot of material you're ingesting.
Yeah, like when is the set list decided for each performance? Does it kind of based on who's there to perform and who knows what, or?
It's a good question. So we have several shows that we do in a day, and some of those are scripted shows. So they are the exact same every time, no matter who's there. So all the lines are the same, give or take a small ad lib here or there, and the songs are the same. They're in the same positions in the set, all that jazz, choreography. The works. And then there are other sets during the day that are not defined. They don't have any specific thing that they're supposed to be. So we just kind of figure out what those are going to be as we do them. Certainly the lead singer's responsibility to come up with the sets and consult the group to see what everyone's comfortable with on a given day.
Oh, so you often get to decide the set.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh, we need to arrange a day where I'm at the parks when you're working, and I need to be like, okay, what do I want to hear? Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow for certain. You guys sing that, right?
Oh gosh, that one might need a little dusting off.
Start dusting.
Yeah, I think we'll. The mandate has been received. All right, we shall start dusting.
Oh man,
shining at the end of every day.
I love it so much. Weirdest thing, I just saw this morning, totally tangent here, but you're familiar with the Carousel of Progress, I assume, at Walt Disney World?
Yeah.
They just put new costumes on the characters in the final scene.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is like, I mean, they've had the same costumes for 20 plus years at this point, and all of a sudden, I mean, listen, there's no secret that final scene needs to be updated. It's not super futuristic anymore, but they just changed all their costumes. And I'm like, is this the update we're getting? I love to see that I got a little TLC, but it was an interesting choice.
The changes to the future are purely sartorial. There is just no technology, none of it. It's all fashion. That's all we got.
It's hilarious.
And honestly, I'm here for that.
Now, listen, although the Dapper Dans are primarily an a cappella group, you do perform some fun things with the Disneyland Band, which I'm obsessed with. I'm sure there are some people who treat the Dapper Dans the way I do the Disneyland Band. Like, I will follow the Disneyland Band around. I love them. I'm obsessed with them. I was a band and chorus nerd myself, so...
Oh, great.
But... I mean, you guys get to perform with them. Is that kind of, I don't know, extra special in any way, or?
Totally. It totally is. Yeah, it's always so fun to get to work with them because, on the one hand, just from a musical standpoint, it's different than what we're doing the rest of the day. So it allows us to just sort of like flex a different muscle. To sing along with them is great fun, but also everyone in the band is so cool. It's such a great group of people and all very talented musicians. So it's great to just get to hang out and play with them. It's a blast.
I love how when they're marching down Main Street, they'll start at the castle and then march up to the train station a lot. And like halfway down Main Street or maybe closer to Town Square, like the Dapper Dans will just kind of like weasel their way into it. And I'm like, oh, it's so casually rehearsed. I love it.
Yes. They're like, hey, look at these guys who are here on the street. Maybe they could like come in and do something with us. And we're like, that's fine. Mickey Mouse is here too. Great. Like, this is just a normal day in our lives. It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. Now, you also use the chimes, right? A lot of times.
Yeah.
What are they specifically called?
Yeah, those are Deegan organ chimes.
Okay. Are those difficult to learn?
They are. I wouldn't say difficult, but they are specific. They're unlike, they're just sort of their own animal. They're not really like any other instruments that we use today. They're basically like these chimes that they sort of look like, if you can visualize a pipe organ, and how they have sort of like these long metal tubes that are sort of have like this beveled cut at the top, where the sound comes out. If you could picture those like in three sizes, like you've got a big one at the back, and then a slightly smaller one in front of it, and a smaller one in front of that, and those like are hooked together on like this wooden handle sort of thing, and that constitutes one chime. And all on a given chime, all of the pitches are the same, just spaced in octaves. So, for example, if you've got a C chime, it's got like a lower C, and then the slightly smaller bit is a one octave higher, and then the next one is one octave higher than that. So they're all pitched to just one pitch, but in several different octaves. And we use them as handheld instruments. They were originally made to be mallet instruments, so they would all be like placed on these like hanging racks, and they have like the handles of them have like on the butt of the handle, there's like a mallet target where you could just sort of whack it and it'll make the sound. But we don't do that. We just pick them up with our hands. Yeah, so they're odd instruments in that they're sort of like handbells in that, it's not as if you're playing a saxophone and you've got like this whole slew of notes that you get to, pick from as part of your part, right? And you are at most responsible for two notes, like the B and the C. That's all you get. And so you have to have an awareness of like the melody that the four of you are playing together, or the chords that you're playing together, as opposed to just like, thinking, oh, I've got my part memorized, I'm going to do that. You kind of have to know what else is going on. So it's a challenge to learn that for sure.
I love that you guys are using them in a way that isn't traditional. I didn't realize that. It's kind of like you're the Blue Man Group of a cappella music.
That's right. And we'll be painting our faces to match our suit colors. That's coming in an update very, very soon.
Let's talk about the suit colors for a second, because I think they're typically blue, green, purple, orange, right?
Yeah, the last color is sort of debatable.
Like
you might call it yellow, orange, yeah, but something in that family, yeah.
And are those colors associated with the vocal parts? Is that how it works?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have the tenor is always the yellow one, and the lead is purple, and the bass is red, and the baritone is blue.
Okay, so you've adorned two of those costumes through the years.
Indeed. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Cool. Now,
yeah.
Obviously, Dapper Dans mostly perform in the parks, but there are quite a few special events that they've performed at. Are there any that you specifically have performed at that are super memorable, whether it was D23 Expo or anything like that?
Yeah, I did get to perform at D23. The pandemic has totally ruined my sense of years.
2019 was the last one.
I think it's 2019. Yeah, I think that was the one. And if I remember correctly, we were doing something related to the Haunted Mansion's anniversary or something around that time. Yeah, so I think we got to do the Cadaver Dans, which is our spooky Halloween version, occasionally comes out at night, and that was a lot of fun. Also gotten to do that for the Mickey's Halloween party when that was happening in Disneyland, as opposed to the other side of the Esplanade.
It's as if you won't say it. It's like Macbeth here. It's like I know the other side of the Esplanade.
I'm just bitter that it's over there now. It's like no. Of course they're doing an excellent job over there.
You know what? With the Halloween parties, when they said they were moving, it's hopped back and forth several times between the two parks. But when they said they were going to leave Disneyland, I was like, oh, what a bummer, because you're never going to get that beautiful scenery of Rivers of America. Yeah. It's stunning during Halloween. But I'll tell you,
incredible.
Villains Grove, man.
It's still got a lot going for it,
Villains Grove is incredible. So
yeah. Again, things that are sort of more on the spooky side of things, where got to. I think this was actually for the Haunted Mansion's celebration. This must have been
they had a private party. Yeah,
we had a big thing. It was a couple nights, and we got to do this like whole show that was actually on Tom Sawyer Island, and you know, it was this full thing. You know, we had lights, we had dancers, and projections in the fog, and all this kind of stuff. That was really, really exciting. Man, it was so fun. It was just like so unusual for, you know, our compared to our day to day, and getting to put on just like this big number that's huge production stuff and like pyro things. Man, it was fantastic.
That's cool. Yeah, Halloween, I love the Dapper Dans. I think that's a lot of fun. Obviously, at the end of the year, you get a lot of Christmas music. I don't know, do they sing any Hanukkah music? They probably do.
I don't believe we have any. I don't believe we have any Hanukkah in our rep at this moment.
Well, they will eventually, I'm sure. And then
I'm sure
some New Year's tunes and such. But I mean, that's so much fun. You guys get different costumes for both of those as well. You're obviously learning even more tunes for that kind of set. But that must be just like a nice change of pace toward the end of the year.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, you can sort of mark your progress through the year by what clothes you're wearing on a given day.
And you're like, does the Christmas costume still fit? Okay, it's been an okay year. It's been all right.
Oh gosh, that is always a concern. Yes. Did I do all right? Okay. Don't need a new fitting.
That's so funny. One of the things I remember, I'm curious if you got to be part of this, they were doing some like limited time magic things, and they sang like a boy band set, which is my jam. Did you get to sing this?
That was a little before my time. It's a little before my time.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
It is well known throughout our ranks. Absolutely.
Do you guys love it or hate it?
Oh, I think it's looked upon with some fondness, and perhaps I don't know if everyone misses doing it, but
it does seem. Listen, it didn't necessarily feel like as on brand as a lot of the music that you guys sing, but as a boy band fan, I was like, this is kind of a dream come true.
It's pretty great. I mean, you know, to watch it on YouTube or something is a pretty delightful thing, I will say.
It's so funny. Now, I'm curious if you know about this. I have not seen this in person in any recent years, but Walt Disney himself commissioned the Schwinn custom 4-seater bicycle that the Dapper Dans have ridden.
Yes.
Is this something that still exists?
It does still exist.
Have you ridden it? It
does still exist. Yes.
Okay, wait a second. When is it used?
I promise it's real. It hasn't been used in a while, and a lot of that is for purely logistical reasons, in terms of whether or not it's safe to ride around, or we obviously don't want to hit anybody, or cause any problems in that kind of way, and just making sure that everyone on our end feels comfortable with doing it on a given day. But it still exists. It still exists, and there's certainly some appetite for using it whenever possible.
I'm curious if there's like a bicycle portion of the audition, because not everybody knows how to ride a bike. It's like hopefully at least 3 of them do. Why don't you just keep your feet on the pedals?
Oh man, that's hilarious. There isn't, but maybe there should be. Maybe that's why
it's out of commission.
That's right. Strangest thing, these guys are great singers, just half of them can't ride on 2 wheels, so it's just unfortunate.
It is so funny though, like it's like really, it's unique, it's kind of, I don't know, it's like kitschy, it's fun to see. I've only seen video of it. I've never if I did see it in the park, I don't remember it. I remember like the most recent time, quote unquote, seeing it was on an episode of Modern Family. One of the characters becomes a Dapper Dan or something, and you see them riding that, and I'm like, wait a sec, that is not a common occurrence these days. So, but
no, not quite.
That's so cool. So, like, is it hanging out backstage or what? Like, do you physically see it?
I do physically see it fairly often. Yes,
that's so funny. That needs to become part of a parade.
It would. I think that would be a lot of fun.
You know how in the summer they have the All-American College Band, I think it is, start the parade, like 5 minutes before the parade comes. When they're off season, I'm asking for Dapper Dans on the bicycle. There we go. Singing Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
It's been put out. It's been put out.
in the
So
universe.
if that's what's happening, come September, then we know who to thank. It's all back to you, Jeff.
I will take that honor and own it. So that's cool though. That's so cool that it still exists. Now, obviously, the pandemic shut down the park for a very, very, very long time. The parks were creating content for online for folks to enjoy and remember the parks and get a little bit of love from the parks. Voices from Home became a thing.
Yeah.
Did you take part in that?
I did.
Oh, cool.
I did. I was involved in a couple of those. Yeah.
Do you know how that came about? Was it somebody from like Parks Entertainment, or was it somebody in the Dapper Dans group that was like, "Hey, let's do something"?
I believe that it came from somewhere of the higher ups. I can't say I know exactly where it originated from, but it was definitely something that came to us as a group, and with the folks reached out and started setting it up.
That was the weirdest time. It was so weird, and it wasn't even that long ago. But gosh,
it feels like it's been lifetimes, honestly.
Yeah, it was very, very, very weird, but. In any case,
it was.
Voices from Home was a thing. That's cool. Now, this is a really tough question, but do you have a favorite song that you perform with the group?
Wow. That is a tough question.
How about this? One that is like one you really enjoy singing, and then one that you just kind of enjoy hearing, if they're different.
Okay. Sure. Well, I think the one that I probably enjoy singing the most is a tune called "Who Will Buy." It's a song from the musical Oliver, and this is this excellent kind of classically great barbershop arrangement of the song that we have that just really, oh man, it's beautiful. All the lines are so good individually and come together and just chef's kiss. It's fantastic. So that one's a real joy to get to sing for sure. And I think that in terms of just like listening to or being around for it is another big song that we have called Sitting on Top of the World, which is a barbershop kind of standard, not exactly what we call a polecat, which are like tunes that barbershoppers know and can sing with people they've never met before, so it's kind of like standardized rep, but it is definitely a very familiar song to most barbershoppers, and the tag of it is just a big bustin' thing, and to get to to get to hear all these like four voices just like screaming out some really big notes, and it's all just like perfectly in tune and locking in, like it is a lot of fun to hear, that is for sure.
It's really interesting you chose those two songs because, I think a lot of people think of the Dapper Dans as singing Disney music only, but the fact is you guys sing a lot of standards, a lot of musical theater, obviously a lot of Disney tunes. What do you think the percentage is, if you had to guess, of like, is it like 30% Disney stuff and the rest kind of classic?
I would say, yeah, it's definitely majority, not like recognizably Disney songs.
Yeah.
I would say, which does feel sort of not exactly what everyone thinks when they think of the Dapper Dans. But yeah, I would say probably about 70+% of our stuff is not Disney branded material. Although I will say that we've recently added some tunes into our rep that are Disney recognizable songs, which have been great. It's been so fun to get to like sing those for people, and because they are of course welcomed with a really nice response, and because who doesn't want to hear Disney songs while they're at Disneyland, It's
also really interesting to me because I feel like a lot of the tunes that aren't Disney songs just unofficially become them for a lot of people. I know with me, sure. The first time I saw a production of Hello Dolly and heard Before the Parade Put on Your Sunday Clothes, I was like, that's Disney.
Exactly. I was just going to say, because there's so much musical theater stuff that is played like on Main Street USA all the time. And so that totally is just like, it becomes the Disney soundtrack, essentially, which is great. But yeah, it's sometimes you don't really associate them with where they come from because they're just like more relevant as this new thing.
I just had a brilliant idea to get some more musical theater into the park. This set from the Dapper Dans brought to you by Disney Plus. We will now sing some music from Hamilton. Let me tell you, it would be as popular as the boy band music, just saying.
I mean, that would be a true delight to get. I mean, yeah, I suppose it is a Disney property, so on Disney Plus. So anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Hilarious. Now, an even tougher question: is there a Disney song that you wish the Dapper Dans performed?
Oh, yes, there is.
Care to tell?
Sure. It's When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2.
Oh gosh, that is like my go-to. Did you know this?
No, I didn't know that.
I sang that at Rockwell, a place we've both performed at many times for their Disney nights. And it's the song that Sarah McLachlan sings in the movie. And no offense, but I think it sounds better in a guy's voice. And, I love that song. You guys should totally sing that song.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous song, and there are gorgeous barbershop arrangements that exist. Whether or not that doesn't mean like anyone can just say, okay, I'm going to sing that now. So there's other layers to go through, but it is certainly a favorite of mine, and one that in the barbershop style really is just so beautiful and so heartbreaking and wonderful in all the good ways. The kind of good Pixar Disney heartbreak.
Yeah, that's a very solid choice. Much better than what I was going to say. I was going to say you need some power line in there.
So I think what I'm hearing there is we are not seeing eye to eye.
Do you guys sing eye to eye already?
No. Oh. I was saying, well, you and I
we are not seeing. Sorry, I thought you said we were not singing. It's correct. We are not seeing eye to eye. We got the dad joke in here. See, you're a natural Dapper Dan.
I honestly, it's a problem. I'm working on it.
How much fun would Powerline be, though? Come on.
Oh gosh. What a blast! I mean, that's one that I've sung at Rockwell in the past, and boy, is it a doozy! But man, is it fun!
Rest in peace, Rockwell. By the way,
I know. 2 shout outs here. Long may it live in our memories.
Oh man, so sad. Before we get on to some trivia, do you have any memorable stories during a set? One of those oh crap moments, or just something that was, or one of those like extra magic moments for a special guest?
Well, there's a good oh crap moment that I remember from just recently.
I can tell by the way you said that it still hurts a little.
Oh, there's a lot of shame here, Jeff. There's a lot of shame. We got to own our mistakes, though. We just gotta roll with it. I was calling a song. I was the lead singer for the day. I was calling a song, set it up in a very specific way, and sort of indicated that the bass was going to be the one who started this song. And it was, I thought the introduction was pretty clear. So I just sort of start looking at the bass, and he's not singing anything. And so I just whispered to him, what the name of the song is. And he's like, okay. And continues to not do anything. And that goes on for what feels like several minutes. I'm sure it was, about 8 seconds or something like that. But, 3 years later in my mind, I'm like, I start the song. Okay, great. So I just kind of had to be like, and just kidding. And then I start singing, and of course I'm lucky to not just double over laughing with sheer embarrassment for the rest of the song, because whoa. I mean, I've been blaming it on the heat. It's been we've had a hot little spell here lately, and I think just the sun was melting, my brain through the straw hat. So yeah, that was pretty rough. And what's worse is 3 days later I did it again.
Oh no.
Yeah. I shouldn't be admitting these mistakes. I promise. I'm very good at my job. Promise. But yeah, and it's not something that I have ever done before in all my years of doing this job. And just just right there, it was like, whoa, maybe I need a day off. Like, yikes.
Wow. That's crazy that you did it again. Well, okay. When you step backstage.
Oh, I was just like, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what I thought was happening.
That's so funny.
yeah, but it's one of those things. I mean, you hear stuff like that from folks in all different walks of performance life, like people on Broadway and all over the place. Of you do something enough times, and occasionally the brain just has a gap for a second, and then it catches up. But it's just like we're all human people, and every once in a while, the circuits do not connect.
I heard there was that show that Matthew Broderick and Sarah Jessica Parker are doing together right now on Broadway. I heard there was a performance where like they were just so off. Like they started, they tried to fix it, but they were just digging the hole deeper and deeper. And it just got to the point where one of them had to walk off stage, be given the line, and come back and continue. And it's just like, listen, this is live entertainment. So
100%.
That's what I love about it, though. It's so funny. I have a friend who, he's not like the biggest fan of live entertainment, but he loves exclusive, like, collectible things. And I always say to him, I'm like, live entertainment is the most exclusive thing you're ever gonna get. You are there is one of it. A show like Phantom might be on Broadway for 34 years, but each performance is a one-time thing.
100%.
And it's for those moments that, don't get me wrong, terrifying.
Oh, yes, they're awful.
And uncomfortable for the audience a lot of the time.
Sometimes, for sure.
It's super, super memorable and super exciting, and it keeps you on your toes, so that's awesome.
It does. Well, and one of the great things about the Dapper Dans is that, the sort of vibe of the group is very approachable. It's not super buttoned up, and we're not it has a little bit of looseness to it, just in terms of like it actually is allowed to feel like these are four friends who are just like up there having a good time, hanging out and singing songs. And so when something like that does happen, where, something goes slightly, off the rails a little bit, we're able to acknowledge that and bring the audience into the moment, instead of having them feel like, oh gosh, like did something just go wrong? We can just be like, well, that was weird. And now we're moving on, which is great, especially as someone, who has like a comedy and improvisation background, to just like be able to roll with that a little bit, or use something that's happening in the audience, and get to just sort of like bring everybody in on the joke or the moment together. And I think like you're saying, those kind of one of a kind moments, like it really does bring the audience in, a feeling like, hey, like I saw something kind of unusual, and like that was fun. I liked it. Which is great. Obviously we're not trying to make errors, but when they do happen, it's nice to know that we can just sort of roll with them.
I'm pretty sure if I were in charge of like introducing the songs, I would screw up the set list every time. The other Dapper Dans would be like, dude, I thought we agreed on this set list. I'd be like, yeah, I forgot, so I just said Power Line. Like, we're gonna have to go with it.
I said a song that we don't know how to sing, and I'm sorry that I did that.
I mean, you don't cheat sheet it, right? Like, do you just memorize the order of the songs?
Yeah, there's some people do use like a little card, to just as a reference in case of. Most of us, are we've been doing this long enough that we don't actually need to use that on set. It might just be useful to have, in case. But yeah, and there's freedom too. I mean, we all know a certain amount of repertoire. So if we get out there and just say like, hey, we're gonna do this song, and everyone's like, okay, fine, because we just kind of know it, and we're good to go on it whenever the need comes.
Here's something I'm curious about. Sometimes I see at the beginning of a song a pitch pipe being used, but not always. Yeah, sure. So how is that determined as to when you guys need that?
Well, I'm actually curious which are the songs where it's not being used.
Oh, okay. Is it typical for it to always be used at the beginning of a song? Okay. Maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly.
Unless there is some other instrument around to give us a pitch. So, for example, if we're using the Deacon organ chimes, we'll get our pitch from those, and we'll play whatever pitch we need, and then start the song from there. So that's basically serving as the pitch pipe. Or if we are doing a song with the Disneyland band, we might hear them first before we start singing. So they'll start playing, and then we know where we are because they're already playing. But if it's a song where it's just a cappella and there's no instrumentation at all, we should be blowing a pitch pipe there, because it's helpful for everybody, because sometimes the person who, like, if the song's being started by one person, like, for example, if I'm the lead singer and there's a song that, like, I start is just me and then everybody comes in afterward, I can probably pull my pitch out of thin air and get it correct and come in. But sometimes for the other parts, like being able to hear that whatever the pitch is that we blow on the pipe, to be able to find where they are relative to that, can be useful. So it's always something that we will use.
I got a little game for you now. Next time you do it, don't just use the pitch pipe at the beginning. Come on, get a little daring, play it as the last note as well, and let's see how good you guys are.
Oh gosh, it all comes back around. We're re-auditioning on Main Street, USA.
Speaking of auditioning, if anybody listening is not terrified of the process at this point, where do they list this? Do you happen to know if there were openings where they would look?
Yeah, any auditions for entertainment at the Disney parks are at DisneyAuditions.com. And so whenever there's something that opens up, you can just check on there and find all the relevant information on that site.
And the good thing about the Dapper Dans is they come in all different sorts of shapes and sizes at the moment. No Absolutely. Dapper Jans at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if that eventually happens. But that would be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a tall, short, wide, thin, whatever. There's all different types, all different ages. It's like it's really a pretty wide open net as far as physical type goes. You just need the talent. So there's that.
Exactly. Yeah. If you fit the show, there's lots of folks who, exactly. There's a lot of different types represented in our ranks.
Very cool. Well, Jake, this was a fun conversation, but let's jump into some trivia.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
Before we jump into the trivia, I want to give a shout out to the newest patron of Disney Coast to Coast, Crystal Dudgeon. Thank you so much, Crystal, for supporting the show in this way and helping me produce more episodes. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, like Crystal, simply click on the Patreon link in this episode's description to read all about the benefits and bonuses you can receive by joining. Now, Jake, would you like to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
All right, I'll do it.
Let's hear it.
So we were talking earlier about the Barbershop Harmony Society, right? Sort of like the big barbershop parent, like overseeing organization. It has not always been called the Barbershop Harmony Society. Now, its original name was a lot longer and was referred to by an acronym, which is pronounced SPEBSQA. It's a lot of letters.
Wow.
SPEBSQA. But do you know what the letters of SPEBSQA stand for, as in the real name of the predecessor of the Barbershop Harmony Society?
You know what? I read this in my research, and I don't remember it. I'm having that moment on stage right now where I can't remember the next song on the list. SPEBSQA, the Society Players?
Okay.
No,
but it's a valid guess.
The Society is Society correct?
Society was correct. You got that first try.
SPEBSQA, so SPE, right? Mm-hmm. Society, gosh, P. What's the P? I don't know.
Society for the Preservation.
Okay. So this is how we're gonna play this game.
This is like early 20th century stuff happening right here. We gotta.
Okay, so Society for the Preservation of E is of in there?
No.
Oh shoot. Society for the Society. And Society for the Preservation and E. This is gonna be rough. And Society for the Preservation and I'm done here. I'm clueless. What is it?
It's really rough. It's the longest, weirdest acronym in history. But
first of all, spell SPEBSQA.
SPEBSQA, yes, is SPEB.
Okay.
SQS A. The third S is silent.
And I have a feeling there's a bunch of
actually-
words in there not represented by those letters as well.
Indeed, there are. So the full terminology is the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America.
I like the new name a lot more.
It's a bit easier, coming off the tongue.
Yeah. Wow. That is quite
yeah.
a speb squat. That even sounds gross. It sounds like a medicine you don't want to swallow. Take your speb squat. No, thank you.
Yeah. It's it has a place in our hearts, but a place in the past for sure.
It should remain there. Alrighty. Well, I sucked at that, quite frankly.
Hey, I want to say you nailed Society right off the top, and it was downhill from there. But that was, you should be proud of accomplishing that much.
Thank you.
That's good.
I'll give myself like a D- on it.
That's right.
All right, for you, hopefully you do better here.
All right, let's see.
The Mellow Men were a popular singing quartet active from the late 1940s through the mid-1970s. Mm-hmm. The group could be heard in Disney films, including Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, and The Jungle Book. Walt Disney had them record an album of barbershop songs, which was sold at Disneyland starting in 1957.
Yes.
What is the name of that album?
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. I've listened to this album. I know the album. And do I remember the name of it? I mean, it can't just be like Songs of Disneyland.
Disneyland is not in it. Think of where do you sing these songs? More
Songs of Main Street.
Main Street. Okay.
Yes.
On Main Street is how it ends.
Meet Me Down on Main Street.
There you go. Good job.
Hey,
Yay.
all right.
Meet Me Down on Main Street. I'm going to give you a bonus question as well, just because I thought this was interesting.
Okay.
A member of the Mellow Men was Thurl Ravenscroft. Although Thurl can be heard in Disneyland attractions, including Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room, It's a Small World, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Splash Mountain, he can not only be heard, but also seen in one Disneyland attraction. Which attraction is it?
I mean, it's got to be Haunted Mansion, right?
It is the Haunted Mansion. So where do you see him and hear him?
Well, you see, he's the very low bass ghost voice.
Yeah.
In the grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. That I don't know where you see him. Is it in the graveyard?
Yeah.
It must be one of is he with like the four ghosts or like the who are clumped together singing towards the end?
No,
is that right?
He's one of the busts.
He's one of the busts. Oh, gosh,
one of the singing
right.
busts. Yeah, and most people know Thurl Ravenscroft not only from Disney, but he's also the voice of Tony the Tiger. It's great, or they're great. You know that voice. So
man, what an iconic dude.
Yeah,
the name to go along with it. Like, are you kidding? Thurl Ravenscroft? Like what? Like that.
It's like
the parents were just
knew.
like that child came out and parents were just like destined for greatness. Like,
yeah.
An immortal human has just entered the world, and we're going to make sure that his name reflects that.
You know what? If I were to have a child, I would go with the name Thurl. I wonder if it's short for something. Thurl, what a name.
Question.
So weird.
Truly such a remarkably unusual thing. And yet, we'll never forget it, Like,
true.
That's just going to live forever.
Because that name, it's great. That was terrible. Now I'm a Dapper Dan dad joke. Anywho, Jake, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about the Dapper Dans. This was a lot of fun. Before you go, is there anything you want to plug or let the folks know where they can find you?
Oh gosh. Well, let me just say first, it's been a blast talking with you. I've really enjoyed this. So thanks for having me on. Yeah, what a great time. Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to find me on the internet, I'm on all social media at Who Is Jake Novak. So find that or whoisjakenovak.com. And that's, you can find all the other things that I do around the internet, which usually don't involve straw hats, but I'm not going to rule it out. So,
but it's often singing, always always comedic,
lots of music,
often comedic.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
Highly suggest checking it out. So at Who Is Jake Novak, Novak.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jake. This was fun.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z, coast to coast on your favorite podcast app. This episode has been executive produced by Robert Scontrino. Gain rewards like Robert, including access to never-before-heard episodes and live-stream Q&As, by visiting the Patreon link in this episode's description. And for any new patron joining this month, July of 2022, I will match 100% of your first month subscription to the organization Planned Parenthood. Basically, anything you need can be found in this episode's description, from additional information and links discussed in this episode found in the show notes, to the DCTC hotline where you can leave a voicemail and be heard on a future episode, access to the show's official website, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the Podcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at depodcastnetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.